Welcome in everyone to the third video in my 12-part rookie profile series. Today, we're moving away from the running back position that we hit on at 101 and 1.02, and we're going to be talking about my rookie 1.03 in one quarterback leagues and 1.06 in superflex leagues, and also my rookie wide receiver 1, Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Looking at JSN's college career, he had a very quiet freshman season with only 10 receptions for 49 yards and 1 touchdown, which is what happens when you're a freshman behind Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jameson Williams, and competing with another 5-star freshman in Julian Fleming. But that sophomore 2021 season was the season. 95 receptions, over 1,600 yards, 9 receiving touchdowns, highlighted, of course, by his Rose Bowl performance with almost 350 yards and 3 touchdowns alone in one game. This season put JSN on the map as the 2023 wide receiver 1 because he did this while essentially being Ohio State's wide receiver 3 behind Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and it's just an absolutely insane sophomore season. But unfortunately, we didn't really get to see JSN play in 2022 as he battled a hamstring injury almost all season, only appeared in 3 games early in the year, catching 5 passes for 43 yards. But everything you need to know about Jaxon Smith-Njigba comes from that sophomore 2021 season, and that is where our focus is going to be. So taking a look at the analytics, if you've been following this series this year or in years past, you know about my marker system, which is a series of baselines that I want prospects to hit that previously successful players in the NFL had coming out of college. And for wide receivers, I have 16 markers that I'm looking at, ranging from age-adjusted production, first, last, best season production, athleticism, and perhaps most importantly, draft capital. Now, I'm not going to list them all here because there's 16 of them, but here they are on the screen right now. And if you're unfamiliar with some of these receiving metrics, let me quickly break these down. YPTPA, yards per team pass attempt, is just a player's receiving yards divided by his team's pass attempts. So for example, 600 receiving yards on 300 total pass attempts, that is 2 yards per team pass attempt. And then you have dominator rating, which is a percentage of a team's production that a player accounted for in a single season. And the formula for that is receiving yards market share plus receiving touchdowns market share, all that divided by 2. And then breakout age is the age in the first season that a player hits a dominator rating threshold. And the default for this is usually 20% dominator rating, but there's research that shows that 30% is a stricter threshold that better identifies elite receivers. Now, I have markers that address both, where you want a 20% breakout early, either in year 1 or year 2, and then allow for a 30% breakout up to year 3. We don't like 4 or 5 year players. We want productive, early declare wide receivers. And under this system, here are the top 10 receivers since 2001, highlighted by Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb. Now, there are misses in here, obviously Kenny Britt, Sammy Watkins, DJ Moore, I guess, kind of, but 7 of these 10 receivers posted at least one wide receiver 1 season. 4 of those 7 had multiple top 12 seasons, and all but Kenny Britt had at least one top 24 season in their career too. So we have kind of like a 90% hit rate there, at least in terms of some sort of production. Before continuing though, I wanted to mention that if you like this content and want to support what we're doing on this channel, please consider joining our YouTube memberships, where you will gain access to additional videos every single month, including a bank of 7 videos that you can watch already. Plus, we will be starting exclusive live streams when we have enough members, and I just posted a link to a Google Sheet that houses all of the data that I'm looking at for my marker system, everything that you want for running backs and wide receivers. It's all in that Google Sheet. So if you want access to all of that, check out the link in the description down below, join the bonus content tier, and thank you guys for checking it out. But enough of all of that, let's get right to Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And out of 16 markers, JSN currently hits on 6.
Okay, Mrs. Puff, what's my final score?
6.
Woo! And how many do I need to pass?
6.
Ooh.
100.
What?
Which is actually 7th in this entire class as a whole, 5th among players who we actually care about that are going to be drafted in the first 2 rounds. And that's not really good, but there is hope, because for receivers, we use an 8-game threshold for metrics to actually count. So if you don't play 8 games in a season, it's like you didn't even play that season in my data. None of those metrics count. So JSN hits on 6 markers, but we're missing 9 of them for him, primarily because he didn't play in 2022 and then didn't run at all at the combine. 30% breakout age, final yards per team pass attempt, final fantasy points per game, 40 times speed score, draft capital. All of those are currently missing data that we have to fill in for the most part to really understand JSN's profile. And giving him the benefit of the doubt and assuming that he would have hit all of those in 2022, then he would be at 12 out of 16 markers, which would have made him the wide receiver 2 in last year's class behind Drake London, the wide receiver 2 in 2021 behind Jamar Chase, and the wide receiver 3 in 2020 behind CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. So that looks a lot nicer. Now, you can poke holes into giving JSN the benefit of the doubt on these markers that he's missing. The most obvious one probably being 40 time and speed score, since A, he would need to break 4.55 just to hit the 40-yard dash marker, and then B, would need to break 4.51 to hit the speed score marker at the weight that he weighed in at the combine. Both of which I'm not really confident that he would be able to do so. I see him more as a 4.6 kind of guy. So now he's down at 10 out of 16 markers. And then you could also argue that he might not have hit 30% dominator rating in 2022 or a 3.0 yards per attempt, because he would have been competing with Marvin Harrison Jr., who is a better receiver than JSN. And Emeka Egbuka is no slouch either. He's a second-round pick in the 2024 class as well. JSN would have had basically the same exact stat line as Marvin Harrison Jr. to hit both of those markers in 2022 as well. And I think that's up for debate on whether or not he would have done that playing with both of those receivers. So now all of a sudden, if he's at 8, 9, maybe even at 10 of those markers, now all of a sudden JSN has moved into a Chris Olave tier, a Jerry Jeudy tier of wide receiver prospects that is still really good, just maybe not quite as elite as we think he actually is. And this leads me to a side debate that I've seen on Twitter and began to participate in myself. And the question is, had JSN came out in 2021, where would he have ranked in that class? And take everything out that we already know about how well Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave looked as rookies, or the promise of Drake London, or the underwhelmingness of Treylon Burks so far. Where would JSN rank among the 2021 class? And my answer is at best wide receiver 4. And I think that would surprise a lot of people. And I've actually gotten some serious backlash on that opinion too. But let's break it all down. Drake London versus Jaxon Smith-Njigba, to me, isn't a debate. London was a CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, AJ Green level prospect, elite in nearly every way possible. That, to me, is not even a conversation. Treylon Burks versus JSN. Again, Burks hit on a lot of what I want from a wide receiver and has the prototypical size and speed of an alpha receiver at the NFL level, and can hit a ceiling that JSN just can't get to at his size and primary slot utilization. So I'll take Burks as a prospect over JSN. And then there's Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, his two former teammates that he outproduced in 2021. So this is easily Jaxon Smith-Njigba, right? Well, I don't think so. You see, that narrative that JSN outproduced both those guys in college, and look at what they did in the NFL. So imagine what JSN is going to do in the NFL. Yeah, that narrative is wildly overblown, because while on paper JSN did outproduce the two statistically, he was boosted by 2 games that either or both Wilson and Chris Olave did not play in. Primarily that 350-3 Rose Bowl performance that accounted for about 20% of JSN's numbers. Neither Garrett Wilson nor Chris Olave played in that game. In fact, if you took each of their stats from the games where all 3 of them played, this is what their seasonal numbers would look like. So I'm still taking Garrett Wilson, the prospect, over Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And if you want to debate Chris Olave or Jameson Williams or whoever else, then cool. But that's why I say he's at best the wide receiver 4 in the 2021 class. But since we've seen them all play in the NFL, you add that additional context of NFL production, he's still the wide receiver 4 at best in the 2021 class, because I want London, Wilson, and Olave all over Jaxon Smith-Njigba right now in Dynasty. So if you're sitting there at 1.02, 103 in one quarterback leagues, 105, 106 in superflex, and you get offered any of those 3 for that pick, take the player. But I don't want to say all this and make it sound like I'm anti-Jaxon Smith-Njigba, because I'm definitely not. He is my rookie wide receiver 1 in this class, and it's not even particularly close. In fact, my take on receivers this year is basically do what you can to upgrade from Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, and just go get Jaxon Smith-Njigba. This is basically the same exact approach that I had in 2021 with Jamar Chase. And if you're a pick or 2 behind where you think JSN is going to go in your rookie drafts, add like a second round pick or a veteran like Isaiah Pacheco to that pick and move up to go get JSN, because he's going to be great at the NFL level. I don't care about his speed. I don't care about not having production in 2022. I don't care that he's a slot receiver. I don't care if he's a third or fourth receiver off the board in the NFL draft. He can very realistically be Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp, Amon-Ra St. Brown. These are all very attainable ceilings for Jaxon Smith-Njigba in the NFL, all of whom were or are currently top 10 receivers in the league and in fantasy football, and JSN is about to join that list. And if you found this video first, you've missed my profile on my 1.02 in this class, Jahmyr Gibbs, and why he's also going to be a stud in the NFL. You can watch that video right up here.